Somebody asked you what you wanted for your birthday last week, and you said nothing. And you weren't being humble, you meant it. That word came out of your mouth faster than you could blink. No pause, no thinking, just nothing. Like someone offered you a second helping of something you didn't like the first time. My name's Frank. I watch patterns and figure out the psychology behind them. And I've been going through hundreds of conversations, threads, and posts from people your age, Gen X, all talking about birthdays. And the pattern is so consistent, it's almost eerie. You plan parties for your kids. You remember your friend's birthday from high school, even the one you haven't called in 4 years. You'll buy your partner a gift 2 weeks early. But when your birthday rolls around, oh, I don't care. Just dinner's fine. Don't make a fuss. And the wild thing is, you mean every word of it. You genuinely believe you don't want anything. The question is, where did that come from? Because nobody's born that way. Picture this. It's 1982. You're turning 10. Your mom grabbed a Betty Crocker cake mix from the grocery store. Yellow cake, chocolate frosting from a can. There are 5 kids from the neighborhood sitting around your kitchen table. The decorations, some crepe paper from the drugstore, a few balloons. Not a balloon arch, not matching tableware, just balloons tied to the back of a chair with a piece of string. The snacks? A bowl of Doritos, the original kind in the plain bag. Kool-Aid in a plastic pitcher. And if your mom really went all out, those little Dixie cup ice creams. You know the ones, with the flat wooden spoon that somehow tasted more like the cup than the ice cream. The entertainment? Pin the tail on the donkey. Musical chairs using a radio that somebody kept bumping. And then everyone ran outside and just ran around until somebody's mom yelled from across the street that it was time to come home. And that was a good birthday. That was your parents putting in real effort. Nobody looked at this and thought something was missing because every kid on the block had the same party. Same cake, same Kool-Aid, same streamers. Now, if you were really lucky, your birthday was at McDonald's. McDonald's started doing birthday party packages at the end of the 70s, and having your party there in 1983 meant your family had made it. That was the top shelf. That was luxury. Or maybe your town had a Chuck E. Cheese. Nolan Bushnell, the same guy who helped start Atari, opened the first one in San Jose in 1977. Walking into that place on your birthday with the tokens and the animatronic band and the pizza that was somehow both undercooked and burnt, that was the closest thing to a red carpet your 10-year-old self ever experienced. But most of you didn't get McDonald's. Most of you got the kitchen table. And it was fine. It was normal. Hold on to that word, normal, because it's going to matter very soon. But the party was only half of it. The other half, the gifts, that's where something started to shift inside you. Every generation has the toy that every kid was losing their mind over. For you, it depended on the year you were turning 8, 9, 10. If you were born around 1969, 1970, you wanted Star Wars figures. That was non-negotiable. But in 1977, something happened that perfectly sums up your whole generation's experience with wanting things. Kenner, the company that made those figures, could not produce them fast enough. The demand was so far beyond what they expected that they did something no toy company had ever done. They sold an empty box. I am not making this up. They sold a box with a certificate inside that said, "We promise to send you the toys later." That was your birthday present. A promise. An IOU. The Smithsonian has one of those boxes on display now. Your childhood disappointment is a museum exhibit. A few years later, maybe it was a Walkman. Sony released it in 1979, and by the early 80s, every kid alive wanted one for their birthday. Or maybe it was Cabbage Patch Kids in 83. Grown adults were getting into fistfights in toy stores over those things. Transformers, G.I. Joe, the Nintendo in 85. There was always something you wanted. You circled it in the Sears catalog. You dropped hints. You waited. And sometimes you got it, tearing off that wrapping paper and seeing the thing you'd been talking about for 3 months. That was real. But a lot of the time, you got something close, something practical. Or you heard the sentence every Gen X kid could recite from memory. Maybe for Christmas. And every kid knew that maybe for Christmas was code for no. So what did you do? Some of you threw a fit, sure. But most of you did something else, something small that looks like nothing, but actually rewired your brain. You adjusted. You said, okay. You played with what you got. And by the next morning, you weren't thinking about it anymore. You adjusted fast, almost suspiciously fast. And that speed wasn't random. The world you were growing up in was practically training you to do exactly that. Between 1970 and the mid-1980s, the number of families where both parents worked jumped from about 40% to over 60%. That's Bureau of Labor Statistics data, not a guess. In just 15 years, millions of homes went from having one parent around most of the time to having neither parent around most of the time. And layered right on top of that, the divorce rate in America doubled between 1960 and 1980. Doubled. It hit its peak right around 1979 to 1981, exactly when the largest chunk of your generation was right in the middle of childhood. The CDC tracked those numbers year by year. So, what does any of this have to do with your birthday? Everything. Because in a house where both parents are working full-time, or in a house where your parents just split up and you're going back and forth between two places, birthday planning slides down the priority list, not because they didn't care about you, because they were barely keeping their heads above water. Some of you had a birthday where things just fell through the cracks. Not every year, but enough. And some of you had the split household birthday, a half celebration at mom's on Saturday, and your dad taking you to Pizza Hut on Wednesday and calling it done. And what happened next is where the psychology gets really interesting, because you didn't process any of this. You didn't sit down and think about it. You didn't write about it. You were 8. Your brain just filed it, quietly. And the note it filed said, birthdays, not a big deal. Lower the expectations, keep moving. There's a term for this in psychology, disappointment inoculation, and it works like a flu shot for your feelings. When you get small, repeated letdowns about the same thing, not big dramatic ones, just a bunch of little ones, your brain stops getting excited about that thing. It's not sadness, it's efficiency. Your brain quietly reached over and turned down the volume on birthday excitement, and it never turned it back up. But the low-key birthday wasn't doing this by itself. It had backup. The entire culture around you was teaching the same lesson from every angle. The message of the 1970s and 80s, and if you grew up in it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, was this. Don't be full of yourself. Don't show off. Don't ask for too much. Be tough. Handle it. Figure it out. Your parents didn't sit you down and say, never celebrate yourself. They didn't have to. The way everything worked around you said it for them. You fell off your bike? Walk it off. You were bored? Go find something to do. You were upset? Toughen up. Not every parent, not every time. But the pattern was thick enough that it soaked in. A psychologist named Dana Jack published a book in 1991 through Harvard University Press about something she called self-silencing. The idea is simple. When the people around you don't respond much to your needs, your brain learns to stop putting those needs out there. Not because you're angry, not because you gave up, because your brain decided it was faster and easier to just stop wanting. And your birthday is the ultimate test of this pattern, because a birthday is the one day a year that's supposed to be completely about you. Everyone looks at you. Everyone asks you what you want. And if you spent your whole childhood being trained, by experience, by the culture, by repetition, to not make things about you, that day stops being a celebration. It becomes the most awkward day on the calendar. You don't skip your birthday because you hate it. You skip it because being the center of attention for a whole day feels like putting on a coat that doesn't fit. Not painful, just off. Like something's wrong, but you can't name it. And that makes sense when you think about it. Being comfortable with attention is a skill. It's something you practice. You get it from people watching you, praising you, focusing on you, over and over. And your generation got very little of that practice. So the muscle never built up. Which is why you can throw your kid a birthday blowout with 25 guests, a bouncy castle, and a playlist you spent 3 hours making, and genuinely enjoy every second. Because the spotlight is on them. But if someone tried to throw that same energy at you, your whole body tenses up. So all of this was running by the time you hit adulthood. But then something else got added to the stack. Something that made it even easier to wave off your birthday forever. In your 20s, a birthday was an excuse to go out. It didn't mean much. It was just a reason. In your 30s, it was fine. A dinner, some cake, whatever. But somewhere in your 40s, birthdays started to feel different. Not because of the number on the cake, because of what that number represents. A 2024 YouGov survey found that 36% of American adults say they don't enjoy celebrating their birthday. And that number climbs the older you get. People over 45 were the most likely to say they'd rather skip the whole thing. And for Gen X, sitting right now between your mid-40s and late 50s, there's a weight that comes with the candles. Your parents are aging. Your body is sending you little reminders every morning that it is not 25 anymore. Friends start getting health scares. And every birthday becomes a quiet little mile marker. Not how old am I, but how much road is left. And if you already had a reason to shrug off your birthday, all that training, all that wiring from childhood, this gives you a second, much more convenient reason. Now it's not just that you don't care, it's that caring means counting, and counting means looking at a clock you'd rather ignore. But the funny part, and I mean actually funny, is what you do with everyone else's birthday. You have a mental filing system that the IRS would envy. You know your coworker's birthday is March 12th. You know your college roommate, who you haven't spoken to in 5 years, was born September 3rd. You'll text them, you'll send a message, you'll do the thing. Because doing things for other people is comfortable. That's the role you've been in since childhood. Taking care of others, that's your default setting. Being taken care of, that's the setting you never installed. And this is where we get to the part that's a little sneaky. Because what you say about your birthday and what's actually going on might not be the same thing. When you tell people, I don't want anything for my birthday, you believe it, 100%. It's not a lie. But it might be something more interesting than the truth. It might be a line you've been rehearsing for 40 years. Think about how many times you've said some version of, I don't need anything. Hundreds? Thousands? You've said it at so many birthdays, so many Christmases, so many what do you want conversations, that it stopped being a choice. It became a script. And the thing about a script is, once it's memorized, you stop thinking about whether it's true. Someone hits play and the line comes out. There's a difference between not wanting something and not remembering how to want it. And that difference? It's paper thin. So thin you can't see it from the inside. You can only see it from out here. Because from out here, I can see that 10-year-old at the kitchen table. Betty Crocker cake, Dixie cup ice cream, crepe paper on the wall. And that kid did want things. That kid circled stuff in the Sears catalog with a pen until the ink almost went through the page. That kid had a list. That kid cared. A lot. That kid just got taught, slowly, gently. Nobody was being mean about it, but consistently, that wanting things leads to the same place most of the time. Maybe later. Maybe for Christmas. We'll see. And we'll see was the gentlest no in the English language. So the wanting muscle got weaker. Not because anything was wrong with it, because you stopped using it. On yourself, specifically. You can want things for your kids until you're blue in the face. You can want a better job, a bigger house, a car that doesn't make that sound when you turn left. But wanting something for yourself, on the one day that's supposed to be about you, that wire got disconnected somewhere between the Kool-Aid and the walk it off. Now, I'm not about to stand here and tell you to throw yourself a party. And I'm not going to use the phrase self-care because I can already see you rolling your eyes from here. But here's what I will say. That reflex, the I don't want anything reflex, it was a smart move. When you were 8, in a house where things were unpredictable and plans fell apart and the adults around you were stretched thin, lowering your expectations was the smart play. It kept you from getting knocked down by disappointment every couple of months. Your brain did exactly what it was supposed to do. Good job, brain. The only problem is, your brain never got the update. You're not 8 anymore. You're not waiting for someone else to remember. You have your own money, your own people, your own life. The situation that created that reflex ended a long time ago. But the reflex is still running. Like a program nobody ever closed, just sitting there in the background, taking up space. Next time somebody asks you what you want for your birthday, and that word starts forming in your mouth, nothing. Just catch it for 1 second. And in that 1 second, check if there's something underneath it. Something that's been sitting there a long time, covered in dust, right next to a Dixie cup and a flat wooden spoon. Let me know in the comments, what was your birthday like growing up? I would love to know. Before you leave, YouTube recommends you watch this video next. You might just find it interesting. See you there.